Greetings, unsettled souls, and welcome to the Correct Views. Yes, I had to put a 5 second slate up because it is still the Infowars contest. Not only that, friends, but it also is, of course, the 4th of July. Well, it's the 3rd of July, but by the time you guys all get to it. And these are short. These are only 10 minutes long now that I'm doing these contests. The Dunce Cap of the Month award show, which I'm sure many of you are waiting for, will likely be this weekend. We're gonna have some fun. We're gonna put on the silly blinking hat. Oh, not yet. We're gonna do some incredibly irresponsible things here in the studio. But first, I want to talk to you serious for a moment. Now, it's not going to be all serious and drab for the entire 10 minutes. Just stay with me here. I think it's important to note that we as a country seem to have gone off the rails. It has been said throughout history that we become complacent as things remain good. We don't have to work as hard as the people who founded the country, the World War II generation later on, that kind of thing. Complacency, perhaps. We take things for granted, and not just our country, which of course we do because we are the fabric of that country. I think on a bigger scale, we take God for granted. Yeah, I mean, we kick him out of school, things like that. That's been going on for a long time. That's bad enough. But I think even those of us who do believe in God sometimes take him for granted. Other times, of course, it seems like he doesn't show up at all. But we can't talk about that, can we? Because we are sectioned into these little groups of which the United States was never meant to be. Never. Was never meant to be like this. I get personal for a minute. How many of you have seen families disintegrating at speeds not just that match what we've been seeing over the last decades, but an acceptance of it? The acceptance of marriage not mattering. Do you know how many people end their marriages, walk away from something wonderful without even going to a marriage counseling appointment? People put the ring on the finger and then they move on, and people think that doesn't matter, but it does. Because the family unit has always been central to American life. Those of you that want to talk conspiratorial for a minute, we can. Look at how the powers that be absolutely destroyed what is sold as black culture. Don't think that what you see on TV is black culture with all the thugs and everything. It's not. Nobody raises their kid to be a thug. But what they did by administering certain entitlements and by opening up various programs, you ever wonder how Christianity has seemed to have vanished from black culture as it is sold on TV? I remember, and I'm not that old, I remember African Americans were always the more Christian of the friends that I had when I was growing up. Now, it's as godless as the white race. And what did they do to whites? What did they do to us? What did they do? I'll tell you. There was a time when it was unheard of not to be in church on Sunday morning. And I'm not saying that I always go, but I'm saying it was unheard of not to go. Now it's the norm. If you tell somebody you're getting up in the morning for church, they think that it's a joke. So we've taken God for granted. We've taken each other for granted. How about the fact that we're allowed, that we are given granted God-given rights to things like free speech, the right to bear arms, the right to protect yourself? Have you been taking those for granted? I don't know. When's the last time you went to a freedom march? I go to them quite often. Not bragging, it's part of my job. But even if it's not, you should go to one or two. Do you understand that there's hardly any of our rights that they're not coming after right now, while most of us just sit back blissfully unaware of it? So I guess what I'm saying is we've taken our God, our country, we've taken our culture for granted. That goes into what I was saying earlier about what is sold to us as normal and not normal. I think that needs to be looked at, friends. And I'm not going to stay serious and drab the entire time. As a matter of fact, we're going to get into some of the funniness here Check this out. The margarita sipping bear, as I get ready for the most irresponsible thing I'll ever do. This family here actually went ahead and had left a margarita by the poolside. And lo and behold, the bear not only went in for the swim, but drank the margarita. Yes, indeed, friends. And I promised you absolute irresponsibility here in the studio. And I do, of course, intend to give it to you. There we go. It's the 4th of July. I promised you. But friends, as we're having a little bit of fun, as we're being silly and likely risking burning the entire studio down, let me ask you a question real quick, friends. Do you enjoy the show? Do you like what you're seeing? Or do you feel like the lady that this was incredibly depressing? I think I do have time to touch on this just quickly. The oldest woman in the world. Do you want to see something tragic? You want to hear something just that'll break your heart? The oldest person ever at 128 wishes she had died young and says her longevity is a punishment. The Russian government claims Koko Istanbulova is the world's oldest person, but she's bluntly said that her longevity was God's will and she did nothing to make it happen. And she said she has no idea how she's lived until now. She's done nothing to do it. She's 129 years old, and she's miserable. She said during the war, she recalls scary Nazi tanks passing by her home. And she says she's seen people going in for sports, eating something special, keeping themselves fit, but I have no idea how I lived until now. She's still extremely articulate, but she said she's very, very lonely, extremely lonely. Her favorite place is to sit outside her house on the summer on an old bed under a shaded tree. And she said, I do not have time for the rest or entertainment. We are either digging ground or planting watermelons. Friends, you don't want to live to be that old and be that sad. And think about it. I think this is my overreaching message here. Silly hat, sparklers, the whole 9 yards. This is my overreaching message. If we as a people do not start cherishing our country, our culture, our family, God, and the things that make us unique in the world, then we're going to continue to live down to the expectations of the world. Happy 4th of July, friends. I hope I've touched someone here in some way. Please donate if you can at thecorrectviews@hotmail.com. You can donate through PayPal, and I put it towards the show. Happy 4th.